The XFL Gambling Podcast Week 4 reaction show on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks presented by WynnBET. WynnBET's now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET is what you need to win. Bet $100, get $100 at wynnbet.com or download the WynnBET app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by the D-Gen Dance. Yes, you have a ticket to come cut the rug with us because our March Madness bankroll contest is back. Free to enter, and $1,000 in cash and prizes is up for grabs. Plus, we've got first half under bingo. Yes, enter both contests on the SGPN app, which you can download for free in the App Store or Google Play Store. So grab that thing today. And remember, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, folks, this is Bud Foster. You're listening to SGPN. Let's let it ride.
Is this or is it not the XFL? Yes, it is. Do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
This is the XFL Gambling Podcast Week 4 reaction show. I apologize for being a day late. We are not about it, though.
This is Microsoft Excel.
Yes, I mean, you gotta love that voice, all right? Day late, but not $1 short because we were picking winners. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, well, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dad, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Pretend it never happened and get on with your life. Yeah, I got new music, all right? Because I got hit with the cease and desist on the old men at work.
What?
But, you know, it happens.
Colin Hay came after you?
They came for me. Old Pick, they went to the land on under and took their fucking song back.
Oh, man.
I am joined by my co-host, the host of the Bottom Line Bombs podcast, which you need to be subscribed to. They call him the man in the box. And, well.
He's the kind of guy that would drink a gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
$1 million smile, fistful of pesos, which I know after this week's picks, that is true. I give you CJ Sullivan. How you doing, brother?
Great picks, Dundee. Thanks for having me on. I'm fascinated by Colin Hay and the men at work coming after you for the cease and desist.
They came for me and they won. They
right.
won.
Now
right?
they sent you a cease and desist letter, so you just reacted to it. And I get, you know, Sean and Ryan probably don't want to mess with that, but it's a lot of those things. I'll tell you a quick story. In Chicago, there was a diner called Chipmunks. It was a greasy spoon, and their sign was a blatant ripoff of Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know, just a drawing, had A and a C. You know. And one time I asked this guy who ran it, I'm like, you know, the Chipmunk people ever say anything about this? You know, Alvin Chipmunks goes, oh, yeah, they sent a cease and desist. This is Greek guy. They send a cease and desist letter every year. I just throw it in the trash. Who gives a shit? Please come back. He's like, please come down here and make us think about it, you know? So I'm saying, fuck these men at work. Keep playing that song. I don't run them. Easy for me to say. If Colin Hay wants to jump into college basketball experience in the XFL fucking podcast, let him do it.
Hey, and if we wonder why SGPN goes under, look,
Yeah.
I think, this is a gambling podcast. This is a moment for Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast to gamble on that.
Right. Bet on your man.
I think I should bring
dice.
this up with them. We are joined by third man in the booth, the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. They call him Liquid Lunch. I even saw him get a 5-star review where someone was talking about his liquid lunches. I give you J Mark, a.k.a. Justin Mark. How you doing, Justin?
I mean, at the very least, it's flattering when the lawyers are hitting you up, right? Because now you're making some noise. You're getting on people's radars. So take it as a good thing, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, to be honest, they didn't come for this podcast, but
right. Yeah.
If they came for
we know
the college basketball show, which is why, by the way, and I'll issue that apology to our great fans of extreme football. Look, I'm in Vegas. We were doing college basketball, and unfortunately, this is one of the things. As much as I do like the fact the season starts in February, it's one of the things they got to battle, and I wonder over the next week or two how the ratings do. I got this week's ratings here. The Houston-Orlando game, 405,000 views. That was on FX. Seattle-San Antonio game Saturday on FX as well, 343,000. Then Sunday's action, ESPN2, St. Louis, Arlington, 572,000. And then the nightcap, which I'm actually shocked that this one had the number it did, DC in Vegas, 691,000, which – is the game I saw the least of because the bracket release show was going on while that game was on. Did those numbers?
Well, I say I'm not surprised that the Oscar crowd did not bleed over into the XFL DC defense. The beer snake crowd and the Jamie Lee Curtis crowd did not merge into each other.
Now the DC Defenders crowd, man, I some great fuck Dan Snyder
they were lit.
chants in that
Lit
crowd.
Again.
The St. Louis crowd. Now they said sold out. That's kind of a lie because the top deck was clearly empty.
No, and Coach Tony Meatball even said afterwards, there's still some seats out there afterwards. He's rip up the top, open up the top, they say. But he said there's still some left. But they had 38,000. That was definitely the story of the week.
Oh, no, that's a great storyline. But this is a classic 2023 thing of we sold out the game. Well,
no, what they did was they sold out all the tickets they wanted to sell. They're like, we're done selling tickets, so we're sold out. But
we don't have security working up
Yeah.
there. But overall, what's that? Yeah.
I was just gonna say, they said we're only selling 30,000 seats, so yeah, we sold out. Well, great, you have 60,000 to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
I give them kudos for that's a clever way to say you sold out.
That is a funny way to do it. I guess you could say that with the Orlando Guardians when the 300 people show up to the game. It's well, we're only selling 300 tickets. Sell out. Sell out to watch Terrell Buckley. Do those TV numbers mean anything to you though, CJ and J Mark? I mean, CJ, you first. Is that good?
Well,
is that bad?
I've given my opinion on Nielsen ratings and these to begin with. I think they're all a joke. I don't think none of them know what they're talking about when it comes to ratings. They're literally going off Nielsen boxes, these things from the 70s, where one family has whatever, and they multiply that by a city. They still have no idea how to check ratings for streaming, first of all, for anything live, for any events or whatever. And even for regular TVs, they have no idea what they're doing. So that's why I think they should be happy about the St. Louis crowd, of course. And then but I mean, they're idiots to go by these numbers. So,
J Mark, what'd you make of those numbers and overall just week 4 of the XFL?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they were decent numbers. I agree with CJ though. It's so hard to gauge this because how do you have an app like the ESPN Plus and not be able to track how many people are logging into it?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. But they always say, well, this doesn't include those numbers because we don't track that. Why?
Well, they got to be lying to us, right? There's got to be an economical side of this where they know which ads to place where, and
I suppose.
Ad agencies to buy the spot. Essentially, it doesn't make any fucking sense. They have to have those numbers.
Yeah, they know everything about us, but they don't know what we're watching. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. One of the things I'll note is week 4 was the best offensive from a yardage standpoint, they averaged 651.25 yards per game, which was the most. Up about 20? No.
Yep.
About 30. Yeah, 30. 29 and change from last week. Also, the biggest passing week with 502 yards per game in the air, 170 yards on the ground, though, which that's the compelling thing is that they still can't run the ball. If anything, it's gotten worse, with the exception of week 1, which was at 151 yards per game, just 170 yards per game on the ground, scoring down a little bit from the previous week, but still better than the USFL when it comes to their week 4, like as far as passing yards and scoring. I don't know if that means much, but definitely the run game in the USFL way better than the XFL. What'd you make of these games? What'd you make of that, J-Mark? What'd you make of all these games? I mean, we went 3-1. I should have went 4-0. If Las Vegas, I mean, I was on DC to win the game. If Las Vegas had any sense of urgency, I feel like the backdoor cover would have been alive, but a bunch of candy asses there. And I what happened with Brett Hundley? See, when I started watching that game, Luis Perez, aka the president, was doing it. And I know you saw him and you had to be thrilled. But what happened to Brett Hundley?
Yeah, so that was interesting. The very first thing they said when he came out of the field, the sideline reporter who's there trying to interview everybody right after they come out said, well, it was a performance-based. I'm being told it's performance-based. And then, like, I don't know, 10 minutes later, the guys in the booth are going, well, it might be an injury. We're not sure. So it's like somebody's like, we already are on record of paying this guy a bunch of money. Don't say that. So I don't know what it was. I mean, he got pulled after he fumbled the ball. His numbers weren't terrible before that, but
he had a hamstring or something. I think his hamstring didn't perform with the rest of his body after one of his runs. So yeah, it was performance based already.
Remember though, they fired their OC just a couple days before that game. That's the one that I didn't get much eyeballs on. I caught the fourth quarter. But DC, so I went 3-1 on the picks straight up. Same. I feel like the Sunday night games I've been terrible at handicapping these Sunday night games.
Well, but the offense was fine. Vegas averaged 7 yards a play. They should have.
They outgained DC. What happened?
It was crazy. They had a lot of. It
was fluky.
A 4th and 1 from the 15, all across the league. By the way, the 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1s have been terrible.
They can't run the ball.
They're running it up the middle, and they leave the weak side completely unprotected, and they just crash down every time. And they don't learn their lesson. Bring a wide receiver, crack somebody. You have to just get in their way. They have 2 unblocked guys every single time, and it happened in the St. Louis game, it happened in DC game multiple times, and then DC itself. I mean, Vegas itself. The touchdown before half absolutely killed them when they scored a touchdown. Then they reviewed it and said it was no touchdown. And then they did a 10-second runoff, and they went to halftime. And Rod Woodson did not recover from that moment. So I'll just say that.
I saw him going at it. I saw it on social media. We're gonna go game by game here and break down this stuff. But before we get to that, I want to tell you that the XFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by WinBet, and WinBet's now active in Massachusetts and a ton of other states. Be on the lookout for the WinBet win hour, essentially, each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time during WinBet win hour. Marquee games of the week will have better odds on WinBet, giving you a larger payout opportunity. And you better believe March Madness is here, and there's so many ways to win on the big dance. College basketball left and right, everywhere you turn. Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, get $100. Limited to state availability. And of course, for our DGens only, if you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you get $1,000 free credit. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to winbet.com or download the WinBet app. Offer subject to change, terms and conditions. WinBet.com. Until 21 or older, present state where WinBet is available. If you receive someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We're also brought to you by our March Madness contest. Yes, the DGen Dance. Get out on that dance floor. Don't be afraid, because you never know what you can win in a free contest, baby. And our March Madness bankroll contest is back. Free to enter, and $1,000 in cash and prizes up for grabs. Plus, we've got our first half under bingo, where you can win a SGPN gift card. Enter both contests on the SGPN app, which is free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. So go do that. And remember to let it ride. All right, guys. Here we are. We're recapping another wild week of XFL action. Can we talk about this before I go game by game? I understand they decided to schedule the in February, the kickoff of the season, which I'm on board with. I'm on board. But what I don't understand is they put the best game this week and maybe the best game of the season, Seattle and Houston, on Thursday night on the opening night of March Madness. That thing is not going to do good. I can make that projection right now. I don't think the numbers will be great on that game. Why would they do this? And I thought in other weeks, I have a problem with their scheduling. Do you think it's just the networks telling them, hey, fuck you, this is where we want you?
Absolutely. I don't think they have any choice of where they're going to go. Like, I compared them like to an indie band. It's like, you have your gig here in Minnesota, get in the van. We're heading to Dayton after this, and you're driving. We got to be there tomorrow, like an independent hockey team or something. Like they go where they're told, basically, when it comes to this point, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why they don't tack Friday nights in general, like the Friday night high school football, and like the Canadian leagues.
Yeah, I agree. College
should
football,
be all 4 nights.
Yeah, college football increases their value on the weeknights. A lot of those programs. J Mark, any thought on that before we hop into it? Because I don't know. I mean, I even thought, but I guess I'm surprised a little bit that the DC game charted that well, knowing that Selection Sunday. But here's the thing: it was right after Selection Sunday was done. I feel like that was done by about 4:00 Pacific time, so it kind of like bled right into. I just had to do a show on it, so maybe that's why the numbers. There was no other sporting events. I feel like last Sunday night.
Right, it was just the Oscars, and Sunday night in general is the most watched night in television, just by everybody, because everyone's home getting ready for the week ahead of themselves.
Yeah, but I expect them to. I just thought they'd be a little smarter on the Thursday night thing, but I think you're probably right, CJ. J Mark, what'd you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a late game, so at least they're not competing with a ton of the games in the tourney. But yeah, it is interesting. You would think there would be a better times that they could schedule those. But again, I mean, there's a lot of basketball over the next week here, so maybe just finding some time it's all they could do. Is just let's throw it in late Thursday and hope it does all right.
Yeah. I'm still gonna bet on it. I'm here in Vegas. Let's go. And that's what's cool too, is that look, they got a kiosk. Shout out to the new kiosks that they have here in Vegas, where you don't have to actually go to the book and wait in the line, which I still enjoy. But they also have a little kiosk where you can just bet. It's like a slot machine. Beautiful. And they have XFL on and everything. Get yourself out to Las Vegas, folks.
Yeah.
Stay at the Win.
And hit that kiosk so it runs out of paper.
Exactly. The first game that happened was the Houston Roughnecks and the Orlando Guardians. I've been on record saying Orlando's not the worst team in the league, and I think I'm still, I know you pressed me for my power rankings, which we'll get into later in the show, and I put Orlando in the back this week. But as I was number crunching here, I think I might have messed up. I kind of think Orlando still is better than Arlington. Dude, they put, you see how many yards they had?
Yeah, they're not, though. I mean, you can think it.
Terrell Buckley, I saw him yelling at some of his players.
That's a problem.
Surprise.
Buckley's got that team being a mess.
But come on, Houston is good, and shout out AJ Smith. I love the Mike Leach shout out. They're running the Mike Leach offense. They did the double pass.
Yes,
touchdown.
XFL in general had more trick plays, I thought, this weekend. Kind of like a halfback pass, a double forward pass, of course, just reverses, more things as they get more comfortable. I think going along, they're going to start opening it up. Things I thought they would be doing from the get-go,
And we nailed this one. I feel like well, me and you, CJ, J Mark, were you on Houston too?
Yeah, I went 4-0 on the money line, 3-1. I think you and I basically had the same picks, which I know you copied mine, so that's cool. It's not a big
deal. There we go. I mean, I'm still like Houston's doing what they have to do. They kicked ass. They got helped out by that fumble That backwards pass Paxton Lynch that still has.
Oh my God! And that was another thing. And then Buckley challenges it, and
I know, what
and Blandino basically just laughs in the booth, like, "What? He's challenging that? No, okay."
Every turnover is reviewed. Every play is reviewed. Right? It's like, come on.
He was watching like conference tournament games. Blandino up there.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to switch over that play? See, if that was a lateral. Oh yeah, that was a lateral. Anyway, back to back to the Big East championship game.
That was like the first drive, I feel like, for Orlando. So it's like Gerald Buckley pissed away his challenge.
Right. It was
you only get one.
Within 2 minutes.
Pissed it away. And, I like Houston looks good, but at the same time, I can't help but watch and say, they haven't played a good team. And I'm like,
they still haven't.
You get a play like that where you get a defensive touchdown just handed to you. I can't over reward that. Like, yes, you made the right play. You look good. But, back to my power rankings.
But it's not like
I love you
I'm
dying
not
on this hill.
in, buddy.
I love you dying on this hill. The score was 44-16. Go,
that's what I was about to say. It's not like they won by that touchdown.
Yeah, it was more than a lateral.
But my point is like, come on. This is Orlando. If you lined up, we haven't seen DC, Seattle, some of these other teams even St. Louis hasn't played Orlando. You haven't seen them. They might be whooping their ass too. So I think they're, it's okay. This is the best part about the season is, someone's going to be at the top of the hill when it's all said and done, if the league makes it that far, but which I believe it will. But anyway, this was the worst game, right?
Yeah, my favorite thing about this game, though, was when they pulled Paxton Lynch. They said, and they're going with Francois because Lynch isn't getting it done. And he got one series, and they're like, that's a bad idea. Get Lynch back out there. Like, he went 1 for 4, 19-yard pass, and they're just like, never mind. Let's get Lynch back in there. And to Lynch's credit, he made some nice passes after he got back in there, but he's still making too many mistakes. I mean,
he didn't look terrible. The whole team's and it starts with Buckley. I mean, they had 13 penalties again, and he's just an absolute mess.
J Mark was right.
Good. J Mark, now your boy Mac Sporgy was a late scratch.
Yes,
he
was.
You had us all rushing to the DFS to get the wrong backup.
I know,
what happened there?
But every time they got close to the goal line, they pulled Bryson Allain. Like, he was looking good, and they throw Dejun Lee in. So
Dejun Lee, that's great. The Delaware Destroyer.
Yeah, was this a load management play? Like, are we seeing XFL load management? It's like, we're playing Orlando. Borgie, take the week off.
It's interesting because he injured his leg last week, and it looked bad. I thought, well, he's done, but he came back in that game. So to me, it's almost like, he tested it and they said, how's it feel? He goes, it's okay. I could play. And they're like, don't worry about it. We need you down the stretch.
All right. Well, look, I mean, I just want you to know that I get it. You guys, like to shit on me for thinking that Orlando, look, is not the worst team in the league, but they had a lot of yards of offense, guys. Like, you gotta at least like humor me on this. Like, when I watched the Arlington Renegades, which we're about to get to in a minute here, they can't move the ball. Like, I get it. Orlando, they're a disaster. They're a turnover machine. They never have the right guys on the field. They don't even have 11 players a lot of times on the field. But, I mean, they did have 349 yards of offense. To me, that means something. That means your offense is somewhat, doing okay. Now, yes, you're getting blown out. You're not able to capitalize. We'll see down the stretch, but I'm gonna go back to this in a second.
I agree. For your yardage only power rankings, they're steadily climbing.
Hey, it tells a tale of something, though. San Antonio Brahmas. Yeah, San Antonio Brahmas at the Seattle Sea Dragons. Yeah. This game was a bit perplexing.
Yeah, I mean, this game.
Obviously, we hit on my future's looking better. We hit on the Sea Dragons here. They won 15-6. Little rock fight in the XFL, but I think one of the more puzzling things was Brahmas rushed for just 21 yards at 1.9 yards per carry.
It's awful. Awful.
And Jack Cohn was their leading rusher.
Right. And Ballage had 5 for 5. Jack Cohn was just awful.
Seattle's run defense.
Jack Cohn being terrible.
Seattle's run defense is not known to be good. I'm like, my DFS roster got cooked because I decided to roster some running backs for the Brahmas in multiple lineups.
They got zooked, if you will.
Ron Zook, the DC of the Sea Dragons, getting it done. Guys, what'd you make of this game? And I have a hard time. You could talk me into like San Antonio perhaps getting to the level of the Arlington Renegades too, because
well, you'll find out next week when they play each other. Hines, I don't know. It was a weird game. Jack Cohn is just terrible. I think if you fix the Jack Cohn problem, San Antonio will be just fine. I think they will be able to run it. They've shown that they can run the ball.
Is Jack Cohn better than Paxton Lynch?
I'd rather have Paxton Lynch than Jack Cohn.
I would too. He at least he takes shots down the field.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he proves that he can make those throws. He makes bad throws a lot, but he can make good throws. Cohn just is off. I mean, good God.
Yeah, it's like Wisconsin passing attack 2.0 here in the XFL. J Mark, what'd you make of this game?
I mean, I want to like Cohn. He learned his playbook using poker chips. I mean, he's a degen. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like that's somebody I want to back, but at the same time, I think Reed Sinnott is a better quarterback. I don't understand why we haven't seen him. But to me, this game, I know we expected kind of higher scoring from the Sea Dragons. We're used to seeing that. But to me, it was just kind of more of a testament to the fact that they don't always have to rely on that offense because the defense really stepped up.
Yeah.
Well, they still, I know this isn't a great offensive output compared to the week prior, but they still had they had 343 yards of offense, which they're still the only team in the XFL, I think, that has gotten 300 or more every single game. So, yes, it wasn't what we thought it would be. I mean, DiNucci he threw a terrible pick late in this game. Should we be concerned, or are we happy with our futures with the Sea Dragons here?
Well, I think it's promising that they did use their defense and won in a different way. I know, Colby, you probably count this as a loss because the offense was so bad. And the yardage.
All I'm saying is football tells a tale, man. Look, you guys give me a hard time, but I'm saying, find me. Go. Doesn't matter the league. Find me one where the offense doesn't chart that well or the defense doesn't chart that well. Like the 2000s Ravens would be like one of the exceptions. But you can go, and this includes college football. It's normally very rare to me. And if you're both bad offensively and defensively and somehow have a winning record, it's almost like I feel like that happens once every decade. What in whatever the sport, where you'll see, wait, how did this team go in college football? How do they go 8-4 when they have a bottom half offense and a bottom half defense? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Normally tells the tale. But hey, I still got my future on the Sea Dragons. I'm optimistic. I know, maybe the weather. They're in Seattle, but
weather wasn't good everywhere, and it seems like there's a lot of drop passes too, all over the place too. I mean, it seems like across the league. It's not just the offensive line being bad. I think it's these receivers, which the league is based around because of the way nobody's running the ball. These receivers are just metaphorically and literally dropping the ball across the field.
I see what you did there. Let's hop on over. This is the one I want to talk about, guys, because I hate to brag, but I love to brag. Sloter.
You hate to say, you love to hate to say you hate to brag.
Yes. Well, look, I'm a Sloter guy, but I knew that the guy takes a lot of crazy chances, and also it doesn't matter. One of the most overrated things I think in football is the quarterback. We just saw Jimmy Garoppolo got paid. I mean, I don't understand why, but my point is that just because you're on a team that can block for you does not mean you're a good quarterback. And Sloter, 3 picks. What'd you make? I mean, look, I think he's a good quarterback, but it doesn't matter. If your O-line sucks, you're going to be terrible. J-Mark, you're a Sloter guy. You're a Brian Scott guy, right? You're buying into some of these USFL quarterbacks that are in the that were in the XFL or in the XFL. What'd you make of Sloter's performance?
watching him now, and I watched him a lot last year in the USFL. He didn't run for a lot of yards last year. I think only like 50, but he moved the pocket a lot. And I don't see him doing that. I think part of that is the Stoops offense holding him back some, but I almost wonder if there is something like last year he did have an injury in the USFL. I wonder if that's holding him back a little bit, whether it's a mobility issue or he's plain scared. But yeah, he doesn't look like the same Kyle Sloter to me. Taking chances or not, he's not moving the same.
It's not, okay, maybe there's something there with the injury thing, but I think this is the worst offensive line in the league. And to me, it doesn't matter if you have Broadway Joe back there. If you have the worst offensive line in the league, you're gonna make your quarterbacks look awful. That's just the reality. They didn't run they didn't even break the 50-yard mark. 49 yards rushing. They suck. This team's the worst team in the league. Look at the numbers. All right, look at the numbers. They can't move the ball.
I will give you that. Arlington offense is easily the worst in the league. It seems like Bob Stoops isn't even like, I think he's aware, but he feels like he's not even invested in it. He's like, his quotes were like, "Boy, that's some bad football out there, boys." Like, golly, yeah, all right, Stoops, how about you do something about it? I mean, you're the coach of this team. You can make changes.
He looks at it like a vacation gig. He's like,
right,
yeah.
Woo! You guys see that? That was terrible, man. Who put Sloter out there? You did, Coach. Oh, all right.
See, this is my thing. Orlando's a better team because Orlando can move the ball. Even when they have like 10 players on the field, they can move the ball. I'm telling you, I can't wait for when they play because I think I can get a dub there. I think I can get a dub.
Arlington does have good defense, though. 36 of their 49 points, I read this, is off of turnovers. That's how bad their offense is.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Amazing. But they also ran into a buzzsaw call there in St. Louis. J-Mark squad. 38,000 led by Tony Meatball and Ozzie Smith and everything out there. What the hell was going on in St. Louis out there? Brian Hill, the St. Louis native, AJ McCarron's kids were crying. Everything was so St. Louis. Nelly switched his fucking Band-Aid over to the other side.
I saw some fans dressed like RoboCop. We're like, there to support the Battlehawks.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chad G in the chat. He goes, ask Pat Mahomes after the Super Bowl about how important O-line is. There we go.
No kidding, Chad G.
See, Pat Mahomes is really just Kyle Sloter, but with a good offensive line.
Sure.
That'll get behind. Not your Houston power rankings, but that'll definitely get behind.
Did you guys hear, speaking of Tony Meatball, did you hear him? He pulled the ref over. He goes, "Can you guys take a look at that?" And the ref goes, "It's up to you, coach, whether you want to look at it or not."
Which is a good way to do it because
not burning your challenge, but yet
right.
I like it.
Can you look at that, guys?
I'd like Rod Woodson, who called a timeout just for them to explain something to him. What happened there? What happened? That was a penalty on you guys. All right, cool. Thanks. Just wanted to burn a timeout, so I knew that.
Still nothing better than Terrell Buckley saying, "Wait, we only had 9? We only had 9 on the field?" So where were the other 2 guys? I love how he didn't notice in real time.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him. Can I get one of those live iPads? Are we out of iPads?
Yeah, I mean, is St. Louis a real threat to be a so I know we're going to get to our power rankings here, but is St. Louis a title contender, CJ?
Well, I mean, if they're definitely a force at home. They luck box their way into it. They're in a good position. They play DC next week in a revenge game, and they have everything you need for it. They're not the elite as we have to say of Houston and DC, but they're trending on their way up. And with that home field, why? Of course they're a threat. Yeah.
J-Mark, I know you have a future, so I know you're probably going to pump this propaganda into our fucking ears right now. But what are you doing there?
Yeah, no, I just think they're a very well-balanced team. I think they're passing the ball well. I think they're running the ball well. The defense is getting better. You know, I went into this thinking they were going to be one of the best defenses and especially one of the best in the trenches. Their O-line has broken down. Their D-line has broken down. But I feel like they're getting better. Hakeem Butler at 6'5", 6'6". I've heard him reported by announcers as both. He's a real problem. I don't think that there's anybody that can go up and get a 50-50 ball, and McCarron's thrown it all right. So yeah, I do think they're a problem. And then add on that hostile crowd. I mean, we saw it cause problems for Arlington. So yeah, I'm all in on these guys.
Cacaw is the law.
That's right.
It was great. It was great to see their fans. They just need to move it to Busch Stadium or Busch Light. Actually, someone alerted me that they have an MLS stadium in St. Louis that's new. I don't know if that's true. I didn't research it, but why are you not there? They should go to all of those stadiums. Well, I know we've touched on this before. They're the perfect stadium. You can look at Aldi Field. I think it's
you hate the dome. That's what it is, right?
Well, also just it's a bad look still when you have the top deck that's completely empty. When I watch a field goal go in, and it looks like one of my comedy shows, CJ. All right, you know what I mean.
You're not leaving in the middle of it,
but yeah. I mean, to me, I would think smaller.
That's a good point.
Environments. Yeah. But speaking of that, we go to Aldi Field, Vegas, DC. We kind of touched on this. Rod Woodson doesn't know what's going on.
He doesn't know what's going on.
Meanwhile, Reggie Barlow is the most underrated coach in the game because they got outgained and they won the game. The fans were great. You wonder how good DC will be away from home in the coming weeks. Do we think this team is still a little – do you think there could be some fool's gold, or do you think –
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to find out a lot next week when they go to St. Louis for sure. But they are the only team that runs the ball. Like you said, no one in the league runs the ball. I think here's a stat. The league averages 77.5 rushing yards a game. DC averages 151. Now, granted, a lot of that's with quarterbacks too, but at least it's a running style, and that does travel well.
Yeah, and you run the clock and can kind of dictate the pace of the game. Another thing that I thought they do a great job of, I'd have to pull up all the stats on this for the year. I think they turn the ball over the least.
That makes sense because they don't throw the ball.
At least in the air, they don't kill themselves in the air. When Slaughter's throwing a pick every other day, Paxton Lynch throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage.
All right.
Even McCarron's and Danuch is known for just throwing the ball all over the field.
When you're playing Danuch, your family. Offense gets the ball, defense gets the ball. Everybody gets the ball with Danucci.
So I think that's the advantage of DC is they don't kill themselves. Now, do I think they might have some vulnerability? Am I surprised De'Aaron King doesn't get more touches? Sure. But I can't wait to watch this upcoming week, even though it'll be in the middle of the road to the Sweet 16. J. Mark, what'd you make of this game? What'd you make of some of those assessments? Are you buying into the defenders being legit?
It's still hard for me to say. I think we'll learn a lot next week. This game, I mean, the first play of this game, the Vipers fumbled it within like the 15-yard line, 10-yard line. So, and DC recovered and scored. I think that really skewed it right away. It's hard to bounce back, especially when you're on the road from something like that. Go ahead and soundbite this because you're not going to hear it often, but Luis Perez looked good. He looked like he could be that starting quarterback that could lead the Vipers to some wins. Threw some of the best passes I've seen all year in the XFL.
You hear that, CJ?
Yeah, I know. I know it's weird to hear me say it, but that shot,
an autographed jersey or something.
That shot to Brandon Dillon that he threw was just that was one of the best throws I think we've seen all year in the XFL. He looked good, and so I think that this was just a little skewed based on how it started. They got in a hole here. I do think DC is a good team. I think they're a good team. I just, I think they're going to go on the road next week. They're going to be very tested. And I don't know if they get behind, I don't know if they can catch up. That's what I want to see. I want to see, they're great at running the ball, but if they get behind and get somebody that can slow that run, can they catch up?
The question is, can they slow that run?
Yeah, true.
They don't do well. They don't do well when one thing goes bad, which is not a good sign for a tough football team. Like if one thing goes astray, they freak out. Like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Fair. All right. Well, look, we're going to get to our power rankings. But before we get to our power rankings, I want to tell you we're brought to you, the XFL Gambling Podcast. on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is heating up for March Madness. College Pick'em is a great way to get in on all the action, especially if your bracket's busted after day one. Happened to me last year. Took Kentucky. I was like, you know what? This team's going to go to the national championship. I didn't have them winning it, but I had them in the national championship. And then this Peacock team, St. Peter's, out of the fucking blue, comes in and destroys Kentucky. So my bracket was done. It was done. So, but that's why I had Underdog Fantasy, because if a lot of people out there get their bracket busted after the first day or two, here's another way to get in on the action. Plus, Underdog Fantasy has your favorite college basketball player props. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right, we have the XFL Power Rankings, which we tweeted these out. Right. J-Mark, you were telling me you were getting some static on some of your statements, perhaps your what you released. Talk to me.
Yeah, so first of all, I threw it out on the Book of Faces because, you know, we normally tweet it. I throw it on Reddit, but we don't put it on the Book of Faces.
Let's bring Facebook back. Bring back the ants to this discussion, you know?
I was always a sucker guy.
Now, you know why CJ's saying this, because I asked which host is the closest with the power ranking. 67% voted for CJ.
No wonder he loves Facebook. No wonder.
Exactly.
Yeah, who do you think was creating burner accounts to vote for that?
22% liked mine, 11% liked Colby's. Just some of the comments here. Now, you would have gotten another vote, Colby. It would be perfect if you had Dragons under Houston. They turned the ball over too much. I thought this was funny. Don't sleep on my OGZs. Hashtag stand guard, hashtag Orlando, hashtag Guardians, hashtag protect the city. How can anyone have Houston at 3 and turnover machine Seattle at 2? Frank Esposito not happy with you there, Colby.
Frank Espo.
And
I can explain myself, Frank.
Yeah, why don't you before we get to Carlton's here?
Yeah. Look, when June Jones was at Hawaii going 12-0, they were playing San Jose State every week, right? When they played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and they lost by 40, that's because they were playing San Jose State every week and they just weren't ready. So my outlook is that, hey, the Houston Roughnecks have looked great. I have nothing bad to say about them as a team. However, their schedule has been charming soft, all right? So I want to see them play some good teams. I want to see them be able to beat. Have they beaten one team that I think is good? No. They have not beaten one team that I consider good. So until otherwise, you vote for CJ Sullivan, all right?
Well, I love that whole comparison relied on June Jones, who is the coach at Seattle, who used to say how June Jones' team shit the bed when they played a real team.
All I'm saying is he was undefeated as a head coach in the XFL.
That was a Tommy Chang problem, though, right?
Timmy Chang, but the disrespect. Then in the CFL, you know, he had success too, so that's part of my angle. But I do believe the numbers speak for themselves from an offensive standpoint. Now, AJ Smith is a really good coordinator too, but they have had games where they didn't get to the magic 300 for me, and I want to see it against a good defense. I want to see it against a good offense and see how it goes. So
I mean, they got to get a bump for calling a Mike Leach play though. Calling a play called Mike Leach.
I mean, Mike Leach, good friend of ours at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Rest in peace. So, of course, we love that. And, but I am a skeptic still until I see them beat one of the, you know, I don't know what they did to the XFL. I get it. This is like college football. This is like, you know, where Alabama does get an easy schedule the next year. You know, they're like, hey, you're the best team in XFL 2.0. Let's give you the easiest first 5 games or first 4 games. And we'll see. But okay, continue on these comments that we were getting. This ridicule.
Yeah.
Real quick, Chad G in the chat. Colby over here bragging about having soft toilet paper bougie. The last one here, he didn't give an answer. He just said, "Not Justin. DC dumped St. Louis and rated behind them. ... Dumb." But I get that. I think
Sure.
DC goes to St. Louis next week and loses. I think the Battlehawks win. So now you're looking at an even record against each other. And I just think the Battlehawks are a more complete, balanced team. I think DC is good. I just think the Battlehawks are better. If the Battlehawks are behind, I trust them more.
Can't wait for the pick show.
Yeah, we'll find out more next week.
And
Which, by the way, tomorrow. Well, I'm sorry, CJ. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Western or Pacific, Western Union time.
Western time. I like that old school Western time. West Coast.
We'll be live doing our week 5 picks, previewing picks episode. So make sure you come back tomorrow.
Local news on the West Coast. 60 minutes after this.
What were you going to say, CJ? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nothing. I was going to say DC, of course, I've been on DC since the preseason. I'm 7-1 future when they were picked to be pretty much dead last before the season started. Love DC, but I also kind of agree with J-Mark a little bit that I think a fall might be coming with them, especially when they go on the road and play tougher games, especially since they tried to regulate the beer snake last week. I don't know if you saw this.
Not a big fan of regulation.
The regulation, they had the rules and regulations to post on the board, like they want to control it. It was like
certain sections couldn't do the beer snake. What the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, you can't throw cups over from the other sections or from your section. You have to hand it to DC security or to the snake itself and let the snake devour it.
Do they know how to build a fan base?
I mean,
I question. The first time they took it away and you couldn't do it, and they threw the lemons.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like you're a brand new league. You're trying to gain fans.
I know.
Stop being so stupid.
And them trying to keep
cups come flying in the field. That's good, and that's a story on the fucking news. Right. All right.
Them trying to control it. It reminds me of like when the owners try to do the kneeling for the national anthem. You had Jerry Jones out there locking arms, like, all right, we'll all take a knee. No, that's not the point of this shit. You're the fucking enemy.
Jerry Jones also locking arms in Montgomery, Alabama, back in what was that?
Jerry Jones. Oh yeah, absolutely. The fucking Alabama.
The irony.
Jerry Jones is like the Forrest Gump of racism. He's like a famous racist, like pictures and shit. Like he's got the civil rights hose. Like he's at the diner. What the how's he had all these seeds? And yes, I did compare the beer snake to the civil rights movement of Black Lives Matter. Anyway, let's go.
Okay, continue on. Do we have any more comments on this?
No, that was the gist of it. Everybody else was just giving in their votes, but those were some people that had some discrepancies with our rankings.
Yeah. Well, look, if you voted, most people out there in the world whose music's better, Madonna's or Marvin Gaye's, you probably have most people say Madonna's. Doesn't mean she's a better musician. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the Sea Dragons aren't headed for the Extreme Cup, baby. Let's go.
I was just gonna say, since you put it that way, change my ranking: Seattle over Houston. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
Gay over Madonna, baby.
All right. Power rankings. My number one team. You know who it is. It's the DC Defenders, and I actually can't wait for the pick show tomorrow because I can tell you this. You little filthy fucking dome where you're saying you got to sell out where you're not a sellout. All right. Greg Williams is going to dial up a defense. I hope take AJ McCarron's kids to that game. It'll be their first funeral. All right. God, right. Because they're going to be picking them off left and right. I cannot wait. They are the most complete team. Give me the DC Defenders as the 1 seed in this league.
I love it.
CJ, talk to me. You're still on Team Houston.
I will say it, and I would love for DC to win that game, and there'd be nothing worse for AJ McCarron's kids to watch him lose and get a fraction of the money that he could have got. That'd be pretty funny. But no, I have Houston as my number one just because you can't deny what they're doing every week. I mean, they're blowing out every team. Yes, they're bad teams, but they're blowing out. They look complete. They don't look like they have a weakness out there. And
DC is undefeated too, buddy.
I know they are, but they're not thrashing teams the way they are. And
they haven't had the Guardians on the schedule.
And I love, trust me, I love DC, but it seems like a rain cloud is always following them too, and just dripping lemon juice. How are they in bad weather games indoors as well? Too? Like, what's going on with this team?
Yeah, that St. Louis Dome probably will have a leak. It's gonna be fantastic.
I love it.
J Mark, your top team in the X.
Yeah, Houston. They look dominant on defense. I know it's been against bad offenses, but and they look good on offense. Even when Max Borgi is out, who I feel is one of the top 3 running backs in the league, they still get it done. And Jonte Kirkland is catching touchdowns. He's throwing touchdowns. I mean, they got some playmakers on that team that I think are going to be a problem for anybody.
Real quick on that double forward pass, which was awesome, that they pulled off, and go back to the whole how the USFL and XFL fans don't get along or whatever. Even their social account, the USFL official account had to tweet out. They couldn't let this play go. Like, well, since everyone's talking about double forward passes, how about this shitball one we did a couple years ago? All right, who cares? Like, yeah, we're great. You did one as well earlier. Like, just let it be.
It is hilarious. I clicked on like the ratings to see.
Mm-hmm.
To rattle off those numbers for today's show.
Yeah.
TV ratings, and I see like these USFL fans in there. And look, I host the USFL gambling podcast. I love the USFL, even the old school USFL. But it's so funny to see like the shit talking back and forth. Like, oh, see, your ratings aren't as good as ours. It's
I know. Dude. All of a sudden, they're network heads, all of them. These fucking USFL fans.
Like you're arguing about whether our team got 530,000 downloads or views on.
We got the 18 to 49 share of suburban repeat customers. Okay, what do you work for? CAA? What the hell are you talking about?
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So you're going with the Roughnecks at 1. So at 2, see, these are power rankings. We're not just looking at records going
right. And that's why J Mark can put St. Louis over DC because the power.
Well, and that's why I put the Seattle Sea Dragons number 2. They're the number 1 offense in this whole league. And guess what? Zook is about to cook. The defense is stepping up. The defense is showing signs of life.
I mean, if they're only letting up 6 points a game, then the league will be in trouble.
That is why they're the second best team in this league. And AJ Smith's about to find out about this. Wade Phillips, I feel like AJ Smith's the coach. Wade Phillips is sitting over there handshaking with people. Well,
Wade is on a parade for sure. Parade Phillips. He is just on a float, looking at the crowd and everything. God bless him. It's what he should be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's in his 70s.
He should be living that Ed McMahon life. Whatever. Just get drunk on the couch, Wade.
Yeah, should be living that Vince McMahon life. So yeah, I'm saying the Sea Dragons are the second best team in this league.
Well. You will be. I mean, you'll have your chance Thursday night. You'll have your chance for a redemption.
I'll be in Vegas. All right.
It'll be a cold redemption.
Let's go. Who's your second best team, CJ?
I went DC number 2. Houston, DC. They're 1 and 1A basically. And then 1A just for the flash. And love DC. And but they have a big one versus number 3 St. Louis coming up.
J Mark.
Yeah, Battlehawks number 2. Here's the deal. Looking at that crowd, I think they're going to have the opposing team rattled every game. I don't think they're going to lose at home because of it. I don't think they're going to lose at home. That's 5 wins. They already have 2 on the road. You're looking at least 7 wins. I got them at number 2.
Now I'm back on Colby. Now I'm back on Colby's train. I can't wait for DC to fuck St. Louis up next week. Let's pump the brakes on Slaughter choking in the dome.
Greg Williams is going to put out a bounty on McCarron's kids. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Kaka! Right. Let's go. All right. For number 3, I'll go with the Houston Roughnecks. It's been nice with your soft FCS schedule. All right. Now you're gonna have to play the big boys. All right. And we'll see how you fare.
Yep.
But give me the Roughnecks. Great name. I was talking about the Roughnecks this morning, getting breakfast. Talking about how their franchise has never lost a game. I don't know.
Who's at this breakfast? This sounds like a great breakfast.
Like a Stacking the Money. Real money.
Yeah.
And a member of Stacking the Money, his father-in-law.
Okay. And you guys talking a little XFL?
Who is a former real Roughneck.
Wow. Awesome.
Not in the XFL, though. Like, he worked on an oil rig as a fucking Roughneck. So
nice.
We started talking Roughneck. And that's how.
Well, that's great, because I used to be a Viper when I was a.
Fang Gang. Oh, man. So, J Mark, who's your third best team in the league?
Yeah, I got DC. I was talking to them about them this morning at breakfast. My wife was like, "Can you shut the fuck up? I don't care." No.
Hey,
How do
honey,
you like your eggs, honey? Also, do you think they should let Derek King throw the ball more?
hey, that's why you
How
should.
do you not know how I like my eggs after all these years of marriage?
That's why you should subscribe to the Old Fashioned Football podcast,
Yes.
my friends out there in the universe. So you're going DC. Why?
Yeah, I think that if you can slow that run, they're vulnerable. I think they're a good team, and I think we all agree. I mean, we have the same teams in the top four, the same teams in the bottom four. It's just little discrepancies on where we're putting them there. I think the next couple of weeks we got a lot of key matchups that are going to really sort this out. But I like Tamu, what he did this last week. He ran for 89 yards. He threw for 177. I'd like to see him throw some touchdowns, but they bring King in around that goal line so much. King is unstoppable, it seems like. From watching the USFL, Tamu is an up and down quarterback. I have to see him put consistent games back to back where he looks good specifically and that he can carry the team. So to me, they're weight a little bit lower because of that.
Scorned. We all know you're scorned from
best run game in the league. Okay. You get these new school football fans that think running the football don't matter. All right.
Did you see him line up in the wishbone one play?
I did. You better believe it.
I literally thought, I was watching that and I literally thought, I bet Colby loves this.
Background on my computer right now is that formation. Let's go back to it.
I love how he says he hates running the ball too. They still make him do it. Tell him.
If not, he'd be working at Best Buy. Team 4. Now this we all agreed on the top 4. So for me, I have the St. Louis Battlehawks here. I do think they're the clear-cut 4th team. I actually think there's a tier above them. I get it. They have this little home crowd, but it's in a dome, so it neutralizes, the weather, and they won't have success, because the weather in St. Louis, that would be their advantage. They don't play into their advantage. And that's why I think DC is going to come down there and beat the tar out of them this upcoming week. Stick around tomorrow, week 5 preview and picks. But I think St. Louis is still okay, but I think they have a couple gimmicky, fluky wins, which I don't think is sustainable as the season goes on. So the Battlehawks are my number 4 team. I know these fans, RoboCop, will probably tweet me later saying I'm a piece of shit. I welcome it. CJ.
I have St. Louis 3 and Seattle 4. I think Seattle obviously has a potential to be a better team, to have a higher ceiling, but St. Louis is more steady. I think Seattle is a little more untrustworthy with Danucci and the turnovers and everything they do. But and it's like St. Louis. Let's not forget how much St. Louis luck boxed their way into those 2 wins. But it doesn't matter at this point. They're definitely on the right path going forward. So I got Seattle 4. Although, like I said, it's promising that Seattle won with a defensive effort.
And still got over the magical 300 yards.
Got over the magical 300 yards, and they're playing. I mean, I don't, like you said, we'll see. Great game this week, but Thursday night, why? And we'll see.
Yeah. J-Mark.
Yeah, I got Seattle as well. CJ laid it out well. They are a great team. They turn the ball over a little bit too much to be in the top 2. And in my rankings, I thought defenders were a little bit better. So, but we'll find out a lot. Again, key matchup this week. We'll find out a lot this week about who Seattle really is.
All right. Power ranking number 5. This is where it gets a little tricky here. I was of the opinion that it was originally, if you'd asked me last week, and I was like, it's San Antonio. I think no, it's Las Vegas. I think Vegas is the best team out here. I like both their quarterbacks. Sorry, J-Mark. I think both quarterbacks are actually some of the better quarterbacks in this league. So I think there's a chance even that Vegas could end up being better than St. Louis. But they don't have the crowd, but they have elite quarterback play, which I don't know that St. Louis has. So at position 5 there, Fang Gang, give me the Las Vegas Vipers. CJ, how about yourself?
I try to create a one of those Joe Rogan meme things. So from the UFC, when he sees it, goes, that reaction, with your. I went San Antonio. Right here is the flip between San Antonio and Vegas. The same as I look at them as mini versions of St. Louis and Seattle. San Antonio, a poor man St. Louis. They're a consistent, they're low floor, not a high ceiling. Vegas has a higher ceiling, but they're very fragile, just like Seattle, where like if anything goes wrong, they just fall apart. And instead of Hunley and Perez looks good, but who knows what that's going to be. I mean, so I don't know. I want San Antonio 5. Also, I do have faith in Hines Ward still. He kind of has that Steeler personality where they would come on late, they would start off slow, build something, and then
and Rod Woodson doesn't have that Steeler personality.
Not at all. Not at all. He's a fucking restaurant franchise con artist who got out of town. It hijacked out of Station Square. Not at all. Hines Ward is that city. Rod Woodson's a fraud.
J Mark, who's your 5th team in the XFL power rankings?
I got the Brahmas too. I think they're a solid defensive team. If Jack Cohn can play with his poker chips just a little more and find out who his quick reads are rather than the dirt, I think they will get better.
It's a big if. We've been waiting on that for 7 years. If you follow college football, like old Pick Dundee here. Look, I mean, they can't run the ball. That's why I couldn't take them there. All right, they cannot run the ball, with the exception of week 1. They haven't been able to run the ball at all. But I do have them next, so I do think those two are the clear cut. They're not on the true shit level of the XFL. Do you guys agree with that assessment? Are you guys going to go with Vegas next?
Yeah, at least I do. No, J Mark does not.
No.
This is shocking.
I wanted to shake it up a little bit. Maybe I'm just trying to be too hip and trendy here, but I threw Arlington in there. I think their defense is okay.
J Mark, let me come back to that real quick with the words of J Mark, who said during the Vegas DC recap, Vegas is actually a pretty good team. I'm kind of liking Vegas what they're doing, and you're hyping them up, and now you have fucking Arlington ahead of them.
You know what this is they finally start Slaughter at quarterback, and he's like, "Oh, this team's not that.
Right.
Not that. This team can do things. They can win the X Cup."
It's interesting. 2-0 with Drew Plitt, 0-2 with Kyle Slaughter.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Like, I think Slaughter's a better quarterback, but I think Plitt's better for a shitty offensive line. I think he makes less mistakes. So I understand what Jonathan Hayes was saying. He said, my whole roster's shit. I might as well put the safe quarterback back there so we don't throw the turnovers left and right. That's crazy. I would argue this all day. We could do 3 hours on this right now. But they're the clear cut, and I've changed my ranking since the other day because I think Orlando is better than Dallas or Arlington, whatever they're calling it these days. All right. Next is going to be Denton Renegades. So yeah, you got my 8 right there. I think Arlington's the worst team in the league. CJ, who is the second worst team and the worst team in the league to you?
I have Arlington second to worst, Orlando the worst, and I know not near yardage only, but they both have one has a disinterested coach and one has the terrible worst coach. I think Terrell Buckley's interested. He's engaged. Good for them, which is great to see. If you're
he's interested in playing 8-man football,
right? But that's also part of the problem. He's engaged and he's interested. At least Stoops acts like he's just watching the game from the sidelines. Like he's just got a good seat. Like, wow, look at this. This is terrible football, but Orlando. I mean, you listen to the mics, by the way, which by also overview. It seems like there wasn't as much. Mike's picking up hot quotes because I think of the last week there was so much cursing. Like I said, it was like a 90s rap song with a radio edit where it was just blanks of silence. So that kind of sucked with the coverage was the same, but but with Orlando, you hear them fighting in the game. Like it's amazing. Yeah. They're calling different plays. Why don't we run this? Why don't we run this? What is this, a fucking summer movie? What are you talking about? No, listen to the one guy in the huddle. Like everyone's calling their own plays. You hear them sighing when things are called. Like, good God.
Yeah, there's no control. There's no respect.
Nobody's in control over down there in Orlando. Yeah. It's a mess.
But they're the more talented team, and they're going to stick it to the Arlington Renegades when they play. J Mark, so you have there's no chance you have Vegas as the worst team in this league, right?
No, I would like that just as my fade Vegas that I started the year on, but no, I got them 7.
That's another reason why he has them 7th.
Yeah,
yeah. I
Mess
just like
with
how
my
10
boy
minutes
Brian
ago.
Scott.
I just like how 10 minutes ago he was gassing them up and how great they're a good team.
You know what though, Luis Perez, he looked good in the USFL one game, and then he looked bad the next game. So if he starts next week, expect a bad game from him. No, I got them 7th. I got Guardians 8th. They're not playing good football all across the board. And it doesn't matter who's starting. And Quentin Flowers isn't going to change that. So I don't know why they brought him in.
Well, they had put somebody on the roster.
I can name other quarterbacks.
Oh, he's gonna go with Brian Scott. He's
not even Brian.
He's an Argo now. He's
How about Van Boxel? How about DJP from the Barnstormers? The Barnstormers. I know you don't like indoor football, Colby, but he would be better.
I do love the Iowa Barnstormers.
Yeah,
I have a lot of love for the Iowa Barnstormers. They should be, in my opinion. When we mesh these leagues together and we have this awesome spring football league, I hope they do 32 franchises and they just go and they buy the Iowa Barnstormers.
There you go.
But they're not playing arena. They're playing real football. All right. Yeah. Folks, this is the end of the show. All right. So those are our power rankings. Please, if you please give us your power rankings. What are you signaling over there, J Mark?
Yeah, real quick, shameless plug. Old Fashioned Football is launching onto its own feed on 4-4. Right now we're in the SGPN Fantasy Football feed. You can still find us there, but we're launching to our own as well on 4-4, and we got a big guest lined up, so make sure you tune in.
Brian Scott on 4-4 will be on.
Not Brian Scott.
Everyone give them a follow though, and look, the Bottom Line Bombs podcast just went, got its own feed, right, CJ?
Mm-hmm. Got its own feed, right?
And they call him the man in the box. He's going to be coming. How many times a week, CJ?
Well, they're trying to control me like the beer snake, but I don't know if it can be. Only like 2 or 3 times a week. But yeah. This snake's going to keep growing and growing, and the bomb's going to detonate. So catch you for every day.
So subscribe over there. That's going to be all different types of sports, right? That's going
to be everything.
Sullivan guy. He can talk. It doesn't matter the sport. It could be table tennis going on in Kazakhstan. He's got you covered. All right.
It's a study of a man losing his mind in a box. There's nothing wrong with it.
And his snake will grow.
Check out. Okay, so Bottom Line Bombs podcast, Old Fashioned Football podcast. Make sure you check those out. Give CJ Sullivan a follow on Twitter at CJ Sullivan _. Give J Mark a follow on Twitter at JMark Football. Give myself a follow on Twitter at the Colby D. And let's not forget the XFL Gambling Pod is on Twitter at XFL Gambling Pod. But make sure you get over and subscribe to our YouTube channel because we might have some guests. We might have some more episodes. We might have a whole nother season. You know what I mean? We will.
Get some good reviews. We got some good reviews this week, right?
Yeah, we got good reviews. All right. So did Look Who's Talking 3. All right, but doesn't mean it's a good movie. All right, folks. Until
but they are number 1 in your Look Who's Talking power rankings.
They definitely. Travolta turned a corner. I thought in the third one, his acting he really became the character. Folks, get the SGPN app. Come talk XFL with us in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We love talking XFL, USFL. And by the way, I do host the USFL gambling podcast. So maybe you're one of these USFL, fans that hates the XFL just listening to see what we're saying. Well, go subscribe to the USFL gambling podcast. We got you covered. All right. And until tomorrow, same time, this is the XFL gambling podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.
Spit my darts, you get ripped apart. Save the cookie cutter mutter for 106 apart. Cause of your liquor will I sip your heart. You never dumb it down, dawg. If you're smart, I throw out a couple of lines. Biters are quick to cross. Fishing you on a dick to lie. Piss you off, it goes. Tits and bras, lips and jaws. I use my common sense to see the bitch and all. Good thing you got the market corner. Kids and malls. Rip the red carpet as you slip and fall off. Another career spear. Thanks for trying to block. You get an A for effort and an effort. Shut the fuck up. Here's a hint. Put down the mic, you catch a glimpse, and keep them eyes wide when you see me. Mics, I seize them, so when you see him, you got a good reason to look, catch a glimpse. A lot of these heads need to improve their improv. Talent's not a program you download to install. Quality spread through hard work, no involved. My peers respect me cause I'm genuinely involved beyond